Welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel. It has been quite an interesting morning, to say the least. You're looking across the board, we did see stock market actually, opening up on a negative note. And as we know, the global markets, as far as, other markets that are worldwide, a lot of them got halted and a lot of them saw downside, some of the biggest single day, pullbacks that we have seen in such a long time. And at the same time, there's a lot of fake news that's going around as well, which of course has, really manipulated the market. The S&P 500, this right here specifically, look at this, this was breaking news earlier this morning, but we had an update. You can see CNBC is reporting that the headlines of President Trump's considering a tariff pause are false. S&P 500, $2 trillion over the last 10 minutes. This happened in the morning. But guess what? They never said it was false. So, again, a lot of misinformation, being, thrown around there. There is a Fed emergency meeting. I think it's closed and we're going to see what is discussed. But yeah, looking across the market right now, we did see a little bit of a bounce, for the markets, a little bit of a bounce as to be expected because, we have been seeing major sell-offs. And of course, due to this Fed meeting, I think, obviously we're going to see increased amount of volatility. Obviously, if there's no rate cut that's announced, then, I think we are heading more towards the downside. Believe it or not, we could end on a positive note, for, the stock market today. But in a grand scheme of things, if there's nothing really happening with these tariffs, if there's no resolution that's happening, guess what? We're nowhere near out of the woods, in my opinion, just yet. So again, at the end of the day, before we get into it any further, as always, just a quick disclaimer, anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. But XRP did rebound quite nicely at $1.90 as of recording this update, down 3.5% in Bitcoin comparative as well. Valuation is back above 100 billion, to be exact, $111.1 billion, and the 24-hour trading volume through the roof right now at $16.2 billion. But let's take a look at what's really going on. So, Donald Trump posted this. Oil prices are down. Interest rates are down. The slow-moving Fed should cut rates. Food prices are down. There is no inflation. And the long-time abused USA is bringing in billions of dollars a week from the abusing countries on tariffs that are already in place. This is despite the fact that the biggest abuser of them all is China, whose markets are crashing, just raised its tariff by 34% on top of its long-term, ridiculously high tariff. Not acknowledging my warning for abusing countries not to retaliate. They've made enough for decades, taking advantage of the good old USA. Our past leaders are to blame for allowing this and so much else to happen to our country. Make America great again. There we have it. So, what's really happening? I know a lot of people are not, sitting, well with this, and people want, the stock market to not crash. But look at this, slow-moving Feds should cut the rates. Are we about to see a rate cut happening? Of course, the FOMC meeting is coming up. I think in June, the next one is. But could we see a rate cut happening before that? That's the question. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. But on the bright side, Ripple is setting up to be one of the largest financial technology companies in the world. James Wallace, blockchain, thought leader, fintech advisor, says today Ripple has released a new report with Boston Consulting, which surveys the current status of the real-world asset tokenization market, forecasting that it could increase to a $19 trillion market by 2033, driven by an emerging collective global efforts from the largest financial players. Institutions that act now will gain more than mere cost savings by embedding token-based models into their operations. They can unlock new revenue streams, reach new client segments, and stay relevant to the most advanced users in the market. The message is clear. Tokenization isn't a side project. It's a strategic path and a new, evolutionary step in finance. There we have it. And remember, XRP Ledger, one-stop shop. We've discussed this so much time. A lot of people, overlook that, but I'm sure, the people that understand how big of a deal this really is, really understand, how, which direction we're really heading in, which direction the finance world is heading in, and, how tokenization are at the forefront. And, likes of Ripple, XRP, Ledger are at the forefront of, offering, these big clientele, these big institutions, so you can tokenize your assets on the blockchain easily and seamlessly. And that is very, very interesting, of course. But moving forward, look at this. Christopher says, he's the former chairman of U.S. Commodity Futures. The prices of cryptocurrencies will set in the derivative markets. And speaking of that, we have seen XRP and Coinbase derivatives that are launching April 21st in just a matter of a few weeks. And on top of that, speaking about tariffs, a little bit of a negative news. European Union proposes 25% on U.S. goods. So meaning, companies that are, bringing in stuff will be paying more. So what does that mean for the prices? What does that mean for, the stocks? That means, obviously uncertainty is still quite high. Things become more expensive, which of course is not what people want. But like I said, we have seen a little bit of a bounce for the broader market. But in terms of getting excited, I'm quite clear. I think, we are still, far, far away from where we really need to be. And you can see, BlackRock CEO says he will not rule out another 20% stock market decline. There we have it. Look at that. BlackRock CEO says, he thinks, that if another 20% drop, it's not an unrealistic thing to be looking out for. So again, uncertainty is still quite high. If you're looking at the dominance index, it has gone down as we did start off the day. You can see this for yourself. It has pulled down from the likes of 64%, currently sitting at 63.4% right now. With Bitcoin, if you can see it for Bitcoin, has rebounded as to be expected. I spoke to you guys about this literally yesterday that, we might see a little bit of a bounce for BTC, reclaiming back above 78 to 80K. Very, very important to see where Bitcoin closes today. But right now, we are facing some resistance around this range as to be expected. That's where we are. But if the price of Bitcoin is not able to close its daily candle around this range, if it closes below 78K again, I still do believe we do see more downside. And of course, we're going to see more updates in regards to the tariffs, how the global markets are reacting to this. So obviously, we're going to keep those things into consideration. If you're looking at XRP, I want you guys to take a look at XRP on an hourly perspective. Look how beautifully it has bounced. And this should tell you something. This should tell you where the demand lies. There is a lot of uncertainty. Of course, there's a lot of, retracement, big retracement around the global markets. But look at this, from the $1.61, you saw XRP going up 25% over the last 24 hours. We went up to $2, and of course, we kind of got stopped out. Psychological price point, as well as, the market did see a little bit of a minor pullback since. But, that key resistance, remember that key resistance, guys. We want to see the price of XRP, closing above that range. If it's able to do that, pretty much, we're back where it was. Right now, Bitcoin is far off, far off from where it was. But XRP is making its way back into the 38.2, and that really shows you the demand factor it has for itself. A lot of people are actually happy that the price of XRP is going down. And I still think, even though we have seen this, move towards the downside, towards the upside, I still think we are nowhere out of the woods yet. I think there is more downside, especially if Bitcoin does not hold around these levels. And of course, like I said, if we hear more things about, the tariffs and all that good stuff. So keeping an eye on this, but, this should really be a learning lesson how, good XRP is currently holding. Of course, we cannot neglect what's happening with the broader market, how, the broader market does have an impact on everything, and XRP is not exception. But I'm really, really liking what I'm seeing here. And this really tells you the momentum it has for itself. In terms of an opportunity standpoint, there's a lot of opportunity in the crypto space. If you are, a long-term holder and you like dollar cost averaging in, let me just give you a quick reminder from our yearly high just at the beginning of this year. You are seeing XRP sitting down at a 43% discount. So again, you got to look at it from that angle as well. But let me know down below what you guys think. We'll see you later for Crypto ZX and peace out.